Part 9. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 81. Speaking of this, Lu Zhang put the jade bracelet on Feng Qingxiu's wrist, and Feng Qingxiu accepted it calmly. She was sure that she would not feel that she could not be used when she married Lu Zhang. Sincerity was exchanged for sincerity, and her calmness was also exchanged for the Lu family's calmness. If they didn't trust her very much, would the Lu family dare to give her such a valuable and eye-catching thing as a meeting gift? After all, there is a risk of being exposed and once again in dire straits. Seeing Feng Qingxiu receiving the meeting and engagement gifts, Father Lu was so happy that his eyes narrowed. The last step is the political review. Father Lu is not very worried about this aspect. There is no other reason than that Feng Qingxiu has good composition. If you have a clean financial background and a good reputation, there is no chance that you will fail the political review. Feng Qingxiu has a strong character. She raised her young sister alone and married her with her. This was a great advantage during the review, and it was in line with the propaganda that women can hold up half the sky. I have discussed with your uncle. When your marriage is finalized, he will grant a piece of homestead land for you to build 2 houses. Father Lu suddenly remembered this matter and asked Lu Zhang to take Feng Qingxiu around. The house will be yours to live in from now on. Girl, look where is the best place to build the house. While Lu Zhang is at home, we can find a way to get some bricks and tiles to build the house in the spring. After hearing this, Feng Qingxiu asked directly, I'm not familiar with this place. I still have to listen to you, Uncle Lu, to build a house there. Although the cowshed is indeed not the shabby thatched shed as imagined, but a lot of brick and wood structure with tiled cattle stables on the roof, which is 100 times better than the thatched houses that most people live in, Feng Qingxiu really has no intention of marrying here. In the cowshed, if nothing else, the smell from the animals and their feces was enough to make her unbearable. Father Lu smiled and said, of course you decide where you live. Can't the family live together? Feng Qingxiu frowned slightly. The ingredients are there. I live here with Tianjun Tianzi, among the animals, and others have nothing to say. Who doesn't want to live in a normal house? But the world is like this, and no one can control it. Feng Qingxiu suddenly fell silent. This kind of thing is not something she can solve. Lu Zhang hurriedly broke the silence brought by these words. Qingxiu, let's go, let's choose a place. The life of the Wanglu Brigade is indeed better than that of the Kahua Brigade. You can tell just by looking at the residence of each household and the spirit of each person, because this is the base camp of the Lu family, and 90% of the land before liberation was belonging to the Lu family. It has both mountains and paddy fields. The soil is quite fertile. It is not as barren as the land in Kahua Brigade, and the crop yield has always been very low. Unlike Lu's father, Lu Zhang is well connected. Occasionally, when he meets 3 or 2 fellow villagers, he will greet Lu Zhang first, and then compliment Feng Qingxiu a few words, saying that they look like a good match. They really match, everyone who meets them says so. The man is tall, the woman is not short, the man is handsome, and the woman is also delicate, just like the drama says, they are made for each other. Lu Zhang only took Feng Qingxiu around an area to the west of Wanglu Brigade, which is to the east of the bullpen. The most important reason is that it is relatively open and has room for choice. Further east is where the common people live, and occasionally there are the area of several homesteads is not very large, and it is not suitable for their family to live in a crowded place. Let's build a house here. Feng Qingxiu pointed to a piece of land east of the cowshed. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 82. This homestead is very large, roughly 200 to 300 square meters in size, and is square. It currently backs onto the main road and is adjacent to a pond to the south. There is a road flowing from the northwest to the southeast and then to the east at the back and east. The vast majority of residents of the Wanglu Brigade live in Hedong and Henan in the east, giving the cowshed a solitary feel. But Feng Qingxiu thought it was appropriate. With the secret of space, she doesn't plan to live in a place with a lot of residents. If there are people's houses in front, back, left and right, she will easily get into trouble if the aroma of cooking some meat secretly spreads out. Moreover, being close to the cowshed makes it easier to take care of Mr. Lu and his 2 children. Of course, the most important thing is that the livestock manure tank should be built to the west of the cowshed. It is best to build a house on the east side of the cowshed. How could Lu Zhang not understand Feng Qingxiu's intention in choosing the house near the cowshed? There was a touch of tenderness in his eyes unconsciously. Okay, let's build a house here, just tell my uncle and ask him to approve it. A comrade of mine was assigned to a coal factory here after he changed his job. His brother-in-law but at the kill, I treated them to a meal and bought some bricks before I left. Of course, Feng Qingxiu prefers brick houses to thatched houses. Not to mention much, brick and tile houses do not need to be repaired every year, and roofs do not need to be thatched every year. When he returned to the bullpen and told Father Lu sighed and said, I didn't expect that the place that my daughter fell in love with at first glance was our family's former homestead. What a fate! The Lu family's former homestead? Feng Qingxiu was stunned and looked at Lu Zhang. Lu Zhang nodded at her. Actually, a large area of land around the cowshed is where our old house is. The road behind it is not a road, but our homestead. The piece of land you selected is not the main house, but the main house. In the guest room in the front yard, this cowshed is still our cowshed and stable. However, after liberation, when the local tyrants were targeted and the land was divided, the old house was swarmed and demolished, leaving only the cowshed and stable for the livestock. Part of the demolished bricks, wood, and stones were used to build the brigade's office, which is still there now, and the rest was divided among several powerful families at the time to build their own houses. The world is happy to see his father, brother, sister-in-law and his family living in a cowshed, which is a trample on their dignity. Feng Qingxiu said apologetically, I'm sorry, Uncle Lu, for making you sad. What are you apologizing for? You didn't do this. Father Lu waved his hand, those are all personal belongings. Don't I feel sorry for the gold bricks and silver ingots that were taken out from the wall when the house was demolished? I'm looking forward to us now. The family is safe and healthy. Hearing what he said, Feng Qingxiu immediately changed the subject. Uncle Lu, did you really hide gold and silver in the wall before? She had only heard of this kind of thing, but had never seen it with her own eyes. Father Lu smiled and said, anyone with a little bit of foundation will not leave a way out for their family in troubled times. Isn't that why those who beat, smash, demolish the house, split the furniture, and dig 3 feet into the ground do what they do? Otherwise, what was the point of wasting all your efforts? When we demolished our house, a few of them didn't find 2 big yellow croakers and hid them in their pockets. Let's not talk about it, let's just talk about Miao Fengqin. At that time, when fishing in troubled waters, she often hid small and valuable things in her waistband. This was what the eldest daughter-in-law saw with her own eyes and told her afterwards. She was given a pair of red gold dragon and phoenix bracelets inlaid with gems as a dowry. It's in Miao Fengqin's hands. It's just that Miao Fengqin is Wang Zhenqiu's wife. Lu's father has not asked his family to tell her, and he doesn't plan to tell Feng Qingxiu now. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 83. Father Lu couldn't stop talking about the past. Your eldest brother was stopping people to prevent them from disturbing your grandparents. He was beaten to death by those people and suffered severe injuries to his head and bones. Later, he was unable to receive proper treatment and the root cause of the disease fell. Later, Something happened to your eldest sister-in-law's family. Her father was a serious scholar who had been a private school teacher and was beaten to death. Her brother, who had returned from studying abroad, was thought to be a spy and was beaten to death on the spot. One by one, these things developed. Come down and involve her as a married girl. She had just given birth to Tianzi and was still in confinement. She suffered a lot of torture, so she and your eldest brother went there one after the other. Feng Qingxiu was very moved when she heard this. It turns out that Lu Jiang's eldest brother and sister-in-law did not die because they were spoiled before the house was confiscated and could not endure the hard life after the house was confiscated, but they were tortured in such a turmoil and did not survive. Lu Jiang's grandparents and mother suffered from this sudden change and died one after another. They all died after Lu Jiang's brother and sister-in-law, not before. Speaking of the death of several elders, Father Lu's eyes were slightly red. If my Lu family was rich and unkind, it would be an exaggeration to say that this end was retribution. But my Lu family has never done anything harmful to nature since I was born. He also contributed money and food to participate in the anti-Japanese war and support the revolution. Why did he end up in this situation, hurting his family's life and affecting A Jiang's future? If it weren't for his family background, Lu Jiang, who was educated by a famous family, had both civil and military skills, participated in many battles and made numerous contributions, was by no means just a school-level deputy commander. What should Feng Qingxiu say about this kind of thing? I can only comfort Father Lu with kind words like before. Uncle Lu, no matter what time, the darkness is temporary, and there will be light one day. Although this period of darkness is really too long, it is so long that many people can't wait. It is now the year 1960, and the days of bad composition are already so difficult. What should we do after the cultural catastrophe of 1966? The only way is to prevent it in advance. After thinking about it, Feng Qingxiu resisted the temptation of a brick house and suggested that the new house should be built in a low-key manner. It would be better to be like ordinary people. When I was walking outside, I found that the situation was getting more and more chaotic. The people above were competing for fame. There are many who have benefited, and I am afraid that the future activities will be more intense and inhumane than before. We will not attract people's attention because we have nothing on the surface. Lu Jiang was shocked. You mean? My intuition has always been accurate, and I have almost never made any mistakes. I feel that everything before and now is like an appetizer, and a real storm is brewing. Uncle Lu, you and Lu Jiang have studied together, so you should know better than me. Historically, many dynasties had a period of power struggle that eliminated dissidents. The struggle at the top often affected the bottom. Uncle Lu, we must take precautions before it happens. Father Lu was shocked to hear this, gritted his teeth, and made a decision. I believe you are not aiming for nothing. Jiang, just listen to Girl Shui and ask your comrade's brother-in-law to get some tiles. We don't need bricks to build the house, but stone and adobe. When the situation is not so tense in the future, let's build another big house. Father Lu, who has experienced family destruction and death, is already afraid that the situation will be unstable and another disturbance will affect the lives of his family. Of course Lu Jiang has no objection to what Feng Qingxiu said. In the future, when he is not at home, how can he not worry about the old and the young at home? We really need to reduce the possibility of disaster later. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 84. In the afternoon, Lu Jiang sent Feng Qingxiu home, and when he came back, he went to Wang Zhenqiu to approve the homestead they were interested in. When Miao Fengqin saw Lu Jiang, she smiled slightly, not as alienated as she was towards Lu's father. Of course Wang Zhenqiu hopes that his niece will live a better life, but the homestead belongs to the production brigade, and he can make the decision. He must have a reason to deal with other people, so he did not beat around the bush and said directly, there is no problem for you to build a house on this homestead. Yes, I will find someone to dig adobe for you and build the house in the spring, but you have to pay me 50 yuan to hand it over to the brigade. No one can find fault with spending money to buy a homestead. Others came to him to approve homestead land, and it was always like this. They either exchanged it for food or bought it with money. Lu Jiang readily took out 5 unity cards and said, "Then I'll trouble Uncle Wang." "No trouble, I will be very happy if you and Shui live a good life from now on." Wang Zhenkuo waved his hand and took Lu Jiang to the brigade office. 50 yuan was credited to his account, and the homestead was also placed under Lu Jiang's name. Soon, word spread that Lu Jiang had bought land to build a new house, but no one said a word. Lu Jiang only had 20 days of family leave. After buying the homestead, he was busy visiting relatives and friends, treating guests to dinner, and within 2 days he had brought back enough tiles to build 3 rooms and piled them in Wang Zhenkuo's yard. He was worried that if he left the tiles in the cowshed, someone would come and steal them after he left. The illustrious Lu family is a thing of the past. Many people in the Wanglu brigade only have contempt for their father and have no respect for him. The remaining holidays were getting less and less. Lu Jiang took Feng Qingxiu to the city for shopping, and first walked into the photo studio. The photo studio at this time was very crude, and Feng Qingxiu couldn't help but look around. The camera was so primitive that Feng Qingxiu had never seen it before. It was very bulky and had a tripod. When the photographer saw them coming in, he thought they were young men and women who came to take wedding photos. They were not taking wedding photos. There were very few men and women in pairs. "Come in, especially dressed up so clean and good looking, the man is handsome and the woman is beautiful, they are really a match made in heaven." The two of them sat upright, not daring to get too close. The camera flashed suddenly and they took a group photo, and then each took a separate photo. The fee is only a few cents, but you can't pick it up until a week later. Lu Jiang paid the money and walked out of the photo studio with Feng Qingxiu. He was a little romantic in his heart and wanted to take Feng Qingxiu to watch a movie. Unexpectedly, when he arrived at the cinema, he learned that there would be no movies shown today. "We are not going to watch a movie. I will take you to see Uncle Su and Aunt Su." After hearing Feng Qingxiu's words, Lu Jiang was surprised and said, "Who are Uncle Su and Aunt Su?" "They are the 2 elderly people I helped, and they used to be from scholarly families." Lu Jiang realized that the Uncle Su and Aunt Su in his words were probably similar to his own family. Now that their family was in decline, he was planning to take Feng Qingxiu to visit some of his close friends in the local area. He might as well visit Uncle Su and Aunt Su first. Then go to someone else's house and buy some cakes and other things as gifts before visiting. Don't go empty-handed. Friendship only comes from frequent visits. How can there be any friendship if we don't interact with each other on a daily basis? In the future, when Feng Qingxiu encounters difficulties when she is not at home, she can go to those friends for help. They will definitely not stand idly by. The friends who are still walking around today are all loyal friends who are willing to take risks. Feng Qingxiu smiled and nodded, "It's time to visit and let me get to know you. If you are not at home, we must maintain this relationship well." Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 85. Unexpectedly, Uncle Su and Aunt Su were not at home, so Feng Qingxiu and Lu Jiang could only leave with regret and go to find Lu Jiang's comrades. Lu Jiang's comrade's name is Chen Ming, who is 10 years older than Lu Jiang and was Lu Jiang's old squad leader. Now, Chen Ming lives in the county town, and his home is not far from Aunt Zhao's home. On the way to find him, Lu Jiang told Feng Qingxiu about Chen Ming's deeds. 8 years ago, Chen Ming lost an arm in a battle and had to retire. After changing his career, based on his military exploits on the battlefield, he was assigned to work at the grain management office, where he was still the director. This is a fat job that everyone knows and is respected from all over the country. Chen Ming's parents died in troubled times a long time ago. He grew up eating the food of hundreds of families. He was smart since he was a child. Father Lu met him by chance and admired him very much, so he sponsored his education. Chen Ming joined the army at the age of 18. A few years later, someone introduced him to a revolutionary companion. He did not agree. Instead, he asked for leave when the army passed by his hometown and went back home. He married Xiaohong, the granddaughter of the old couple who often gave him food. When he and Xiaohong got married, Father Lu gave them generous gifts. Soon after the marriage, due to the tense situation at the time, Chen Ming left with the army again. Xiaohong waited for him at home for 5 years until he was injured and changed his job and lived a stable life. Now the couple has 2 sons, a 7-year-old boy. Years old, one is 3 years old. Lu's father was kind to Chen Ming, and Chen Ming knew how to repay his kindness. In recent years, the Wanglu Brigade has always had a much easier time handing over public rations than other brigades. After listening to this, Feng Qingxiu only said one sentence: "A house that accumulates good deeds will always be happy." If it weren't for the kind-heartedness of the Lu family back then, there wouldn't be Wang Zhenqiu, Chen Ming, and others now. Without the protection of the latter, the lives of Lu's father and his 2 grandsons would only be more difficult. Lu Zhang smiled slightly. There are many people who know how to repay kindness, and there are also many who are ungrateful. After saying this, they happened to pass by the state-owned hotel, and Lu Zhang went in to get food stamps and money to buy a few kilograms of noodles. The restaurant made 2 batches of 2 height sesame seed pancakes today, and the supply was limited. Lu Zhang bought 10 of them. It's almost 11 o'clock now. The old squad leader will definitely let us have lunch. Although the old squad leader has become the director of the grain management office and will not be unable to entertain us, we still have to bring our own rations. Besides, the old squad leader's family depends on the old squad leader's salary is not enough to support 2 boys, so we don't need to squeeze food out of their teeth. After hearing this, Feng Qingxiu smiled and said, "That's right." She said this, but she was extremely surprised in her heart. It turns out that in this era, guests need to bring their own food rations. Thinking of this, Feng Qingxiu secretly rejoiced that she used to carry a backpack when she went out, but now she carried the army green canvas satchel given to her by Lu Zhang. The bag habitually contained some food, so when she arrived at Chen Ming's house, except for Lu Jiang's, she took out noodles, sesame seed cakes, and rice cakes, and then took out 2 bad-looking apples, a bag of spiced peanuts, and a bag of broad bean flours from her satchel. Taking out the things that she had taken when she went to Lu's house would only make people think that she still had these things in her hand. Lu Zhang raised his eyebrows, always feeling that his wife was so mysterious that he had more desire to explore. "You brat, just come here. What are you doing with so many things?" Chen Ming patted Lu Jiang's shoulder hard with his left hand, a bright smile on his face. It could be seen that Chen Ming was very happy to see Lu Jiang, and his eyes narrowed to a slit. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 86. Chen Ming's wife Xiaohong is a very ordinary-looking farm woman, about 35 or 6 years old, with dark skin and plain appearance. Her medium-sized figure looks very bloated because she is wearing a cotton-padded jacket. The cotton-padded jacket is covered with patches of black. The red plaid slant front coat was quite clean. She greeted Feng Qingxiu warmly, "Come in and sit down. Don't be so polite next time." Chen Ming's 2 sons were both at home, and they were a little shy when they saw the guests. Chen Ming laughed and cursed, "Uncle Lu, you just came here a few days ago, and we don't know each other now." His eldest son Chen Tianzuo was older and had a better memory. He called out Uncle Lu with a smile, looked at Feng Qingxiu curiously, and shouted loudly, "Hello Aunt Lu," pushing his younger brother, Chen Tianyu also let go. He shouted after himself. Chen Ming and Xiao Hong laughed out loud, but Feng Qingxiu's face turned red. When a guest came to the house, Xiao Hong quickly went to the kitchen to get busy after greeting her. Residents in other cities and towns either have several families living in a large courtyard, or several families live in Tongzilu. It is common for a family to share a small space, and a dozen families live in 30 or 40 square meters. However, Chen Ming's house was a small courtyard that his father Lu bought for him when he got married. After the founding of the People's Republic of China, no one dared to covet his house because of his status and merit. Feng Qingxiu handed the things in her hands to the two children and followed them to help. "Sister, you are a guest, how can I let you cook?" Xiao Hong turned around and saw Feng Qingxiu, and hurriedly pushed her to the main room to sit and drink tea. Feng Qingxiu smiled and said, "Sister-in-law, I can't get in touch with what you are saying, so I will give you a slap." After hearing this, Xiao Hong had to give up. Feng Qingxiu entered the kitchen and found that there was a stove similar to that of the Lu family. There were two iron pots, one large and one small. Next to it was an iron briquette stove. On the briquette stove sat a large copper pot with a spout. The room was constantly steaming, and there were neat piles of briquettes in the corner, as well as two broken wooden barrels. There were lush garlic sprouts growing on the soil in the barrel, and a small part of them had been cut off. Radishes and cabbage are winter vegetables that every household stores. In the kitchen, there are those picked out from the cellar in the morning, as well as a bunch of large and small potatoes. Xiao Hong picked up the big copper pot and poured hot water into the basin, mixed it with cold water, and quickly I washed 7 or 8 radishes and a Chinese cabbage, cut a large handful of garlic sprouts and washed them, and peeled and washed the potatoes. Feng Qingxiu said she was doing it, but in fact, she was washing and chopping vegetables like Xiao Hong, and she was not idle for a while. After the vegetables were cut, the earthen stove and the briquette stove were put into battle together. The latter opened the stove door, and a small two-eared iron pot sat on the stove. Xiao Hong dug out a piece of lard from the oil can and put it into the pot. It melted when it was put into the hot pot, and the aroma filled the room. Braised vermicelli with cabbage, braised radish slices, scrambled eggs with garlic sprouts, and spicy and sour potato shreds, each item is generous in portion. Children are greedy. Lao Chen's supply of pork was used up as early as the beginning of the month, so when you come here, there is no meat star at home to entertain you even if he eats their family's 3 days' worth of food in one meal today. The little one Wu Hong still felt extremely embarrassed. Feng Qingxiu hurriedly smiled and said, "Sister-in-law, please don't be so polite. Who doesn't know that supplies are in short supply now? Meat or not, being full is a blessing. Ajiang brought me here to visit brother Chen and sister-in-law, just to let me get to know Chen brother and sister-in-law. It's convenient for us to move around in the future, so that we don't recognize each other when we meet, and it becomes a joke. If we get angry because we don't have a bite of meat, then who are we?" Hearing these words, the smile on Xiao Hong's face never stopped, and she felt particularly comfortable. Everyone doesn't like considerate guests. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 87. While Xiao Hong and Feng Qingxiu were busy in the kitchen, Chen Ming and Lu Zhang quietly discussed the current situation in the main room. As for the two children, they had already run to the balcony to eat the spiced peanuts that Lu Zhang had caught for them. Even if Chen Ming is capable, it is rare to see such crispy snacks at home. I sit in this position and have good relations with everyone in any unit. Even those people who are engaged in revolution every day don't dare to offend me. After all, food is the first thing for the people. Don't worry outside. It will be the same in the future as it has been in the past few years. The people who go to the old man are just going through the motions and will not be ruthless. I am above and Wang Zhenqiu is below, trying not to let anything fatal happen. Lu Zhang sighed, old monitor, it's all thanks to you these years. Chen Ming waved his hand, if it hadn't been for my uncle's favor, I wouldn't be where I am now. I just tried my best. After saying that, he dropped the topic and turned to look in the direction of the kitchen. Chen Ming joked, you are a really good wife. She behaves generously and works grandly. The most important thing is that she has a clean face. Appearance comes from the heart, and a person with a straight face and clear eyes will not be a bad person. Of course, it doesn't matter whose daughter-in-law it is, Lu Zhang said with great pride on his face, I am now just like when you insisted on marrying your sister-in-law. Chen Ming immediately understood how to treat Feng Qingxiu in the future, and he must take it more seriously than now. Back then, he was a medium-sized officer with a bright future. There were many beautiful girls in the army who were eyeing him, but he didn't take notice of any of them, so he wanted to go home and marry Xiao Hong, and he didn't hesitate to contradict her. Fortunately, the old regiment leader who was the matchmaker for him was a good man and didn't hold a grudge against him because of this incident. There are 3,000 weak water, but only one ladle is taken to drink. My sister-in-law is Wang Zhenqiu's niece, right? Although Wang Zhenqiu occasionally has his own little thoughts, he is a decent man and knows how to repay kindness. Thanks to him, my uncle can live a stable life now. From now on, you will become his nephew and son-in-law. He will only be more dedicated. Lu Zhang smiled and said, Uncle Wang has a very good character. As for his thoughts, how many people in the world can avoid this? Aren't they all running for profit? Chen Ming listened and agreed very much. At this moment, as the ladle of 3,000 weak water, Xiao Hong wiped her hands and took off her apron. Sister Qingxiu, let's bring the dishes into the house and get ready to eat. According to her observation, Lu Zhang is really a good partner. He speaks and acts neatly and has good skills. The food he makes tastes much better than what he cooks. Okay, sister-in-law. Xiao Hong was afraid that there wouldn't be enough vegetables and sesame seed cakes for everyone, so she went to the kitchen to fry some chopped green onions and cabbage leaves with lard while they were eating, and put down half the pot of noodles. Except for the two children, everyone had a big bowl. Feng Qingxiu went over to help. Looking at the empty oil tank, she reminded herself to find an excuse to send some oil to the Chen family in a few days. After having a good meal, Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu didn't stay long because Chen Ming needed to go to work. After saying goodbye, the two of them went to visit Su Aiguo, Lu Jiang's comrade who had transferred his job to a coal factory. They bought another gift on the way and used up all the egg stamps and sugar stamps in Lu Jiang's hand. Feng Qingxiu didn't feel it was a pity, there were plenty of supplies in her space. And Lu Jiang didn't think it was a waste. The so-called favors come and go. If he doesn't move around now, will he wait until something happens to come to the door? In the future, if he is not at home, if his family encounters difficulties, he will still have to count on these comrades to lend a hand. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 88. After visiting some comrades and friends in the local area, the city and around the city and county, and then going to the photo studio to retrieve photos of the two of them, Lu Jiang's 20-day vacation came to an end. It is the bounden duty of a soldier to protect his family and country. No matter how attached he was to it, Lu Jiang could not stay at home. While he was busy packing his luggage and saying goodbye to his relatives and friends, Feng Qingxiu also packed up the things she had prepared for him. During these days, she sometimes went shopping with Lu Jiang to cultivate their relationship, and visited nearby comrades and friends. Most of the time, she stayed at home and worked overtime to knit sweaters and trousers for Lu Jiang. The wool was blue that Lu Jiang bought for her at that time. Wool thread. Lu Jiang is tall and burly, but 4 pounds of wool is not enough. Feng Qingxiu secretly looked through the space and finally found a wool thread with almost the same color and texture, adding an extra pound. In addition to the suit of sweaters and woolen pants, taking into account the constant exposure to wind and sun during training as a soldier, she then made Lu Jiang a sheepskin waistcoat, 2 pairs of sheepskin knee pads, and 2 pairs of sheepskin wristbands, all made of military green khaki. It was too late to make the cotton shoes, so she had to wait until they were ready and send them over. Lu Jiang had already told her his contact address. I remember that Wang Zhenqiu accidentally said that Lu Jiang would take 10 days by train. Although soldiers had priority in taking the train and receiving preferential treatment, Feng Qingxiu was still worried that he would not eat well on the way, so she got busy 3 days before Lu Jiang's departure. She pretended to go out in front of her sister and brought back many things. She mixed the thick noodles she brought back with a large basin of batter, and washed the small crucian carp, white dinner sticks and other small fish that had been stored in the space after being brought back. They were marinated with salt and 5-spice powder and then covered with a layer of batter. Then they borrowed an iron spatula and an iron pan from the production team to quietly fry pancakes and fry small fish. The pancakes were folded and wrapped in clean white muslin cloth, and the fried fish were put into 2 clean empty malted milk cans. Feng Qingxiu left a few pancakes and a bowl of fried fish for her younger sister. Brother Lu will take the rest to eat on the road. I'll find a way to get an iron pot back later, and we can fry it and eat it now, okay? Sister, let Brother Lu take everything away. I can't finish all the delicious food in our house, Feng Qingyun said in a sensible manner. It's okay, keep it and eat it slowly. Feng Qingxiu used less than half a pot of soybean oil and fried the salted fish thoroughly. It was golden in color, fragrant and crispy. It was rolled into pancakes and eaten, leaving a mouthful of fragrance. It was truly a delicacy in the world. Feng Qingyun thought it was much more delicious than the malted milk cake. The only pity is that it was not placed in a sealed jar, so it softened overnight and was not as delicious as freshly cooked. In a blink of an eye, the day of departure came. Feng Qingxiu got up before dawn and cooked 20 eggs and 30 salted duck eggs. She filled 2 cloth bags each with peanut beans and broad bean flours, plus other things that were easy to carry, so the food with a big baggage and a big baggage of clothes. Wang Zhenqiu drove to pick her up and send Lu Jiang off. His eyes couldn't help but blink again and again. Although I didn't know what was in the bag, I could tell it was heavy. Feng Qingyun followed along, and when she saw Lu Jiang and Lu's father, she raised an innocent smile and said in a soft voice, "Brother-in-law, I made a lot of delicious food and a lot of clothes for you. How could we not see Father Lu and Lu Jiang?" The former was happy for his son, while the latter looked at Feng Qingxiu tenderly. "Qingxiu, you took the trouble." Feng Qingxiu was a little embarrassed. "It doesn't take much. The food is all in the bag. Don't treat yourself badly on the way. Eat the food that can't be stored for a long time. If it gets cold, put on 2 more clothes." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 89. After seeing you for thousands of miles, we must say goodbye. Watching Lu Jiang walk into the train station, looking back 3 times, Feng Qingxiu felt lost. She stood there for a while, turned her head and saw Lu's father turning his back and not looking at Lu Jiang's back. He kept reaching out to wipe his face, looking thin. His body trembled slightly. Come to think of it, the old man can't bear to part with his only son, right? After all, Father Lu was a man who had experienced many separations. He quickly calmed down and returned to the same state as before. If you didn't look carefully, you wouldn't even notice the red circles under his eyes. Let's go back, it's so cold, don't freeze our little Mao Ni. The little Mao Ni he was talking about was none other than Feng Qingyun, who immediately gave him a big smile back. There were no girls in the Lu family. Father Lu particularly liked Feng Qingyun, who had a chubby and tender face. He hugged her and got into the car. One person was missing, and the mule cart seemed to be mostly empty. Not to mention Father Lu and Feng Qingxiu, even Wang Zhenqiu felt a little sad in his heart. Just as he was about to find a topic to divert Father Lu's bad mood, he saw Father Lu take out a dusty cloth bag from the pocket of his military coat. He handed it directly to Feng Qingxiu. The cloth bag was bulging and he didn't know what it was wrapped in. "Uncle Lu, what is this?" Feng Qingxiu was confused. "Ajiang left some of the money and tickets he had on him before he left, and asked me to give them to you. You can buy more food in the future. Don't wrong yourself." After Lu's father finished speaking, he added, "I originally planned to handed it to you personally, but I was afraid that you wouldn't want it. Now that he's on the bus, I'll give it to you. Don't even think about giving it back to me. I won't accept it if you give it to me." When he spoke, he blinked at Feng Qingxiu, and Feng Qingxiu immediately understood that this was a cover-up for the scarce supplies that Father Lu and Lu Zhang had obtained for her with money and tickets. Later, if I take something out and say it was bought with the tickets and money given by Lu Zhang, no one will doubt it. Even if it was a cover-up, Lu Zhang left her a lot of money and tickets. Once the cloth bag was opened, a large stack of unity and a thick stack of tickets were revealed. Looking at it at a glance, the money was not even 1,000, but 800. Wang Zhenqiu was happy for his niece, which showed that Lu Zhang was always thinking about her. Feng Qingxiu thought that she would often give food to Lu's father, grandparents, and grandchildren in the future, so she accepted the money and tickets calmly, but she still declined a few words on the surface. Lu's father was unwilling to take it back no matter what. "I just pretended to be embarrassed and wrapped it up and put it in my canvas satchel. Uncle Lu, then I will accept it? If you need it, just send Tianwan to tell me." "Okay, okay." Father Lu was very satisfied with her and never said a word no to her. Feng Qingxiu made 2 big bundles of food and clothes, but even if he didn't open them, Father Lu was also happy for his son. This meant that Feng Qingxiu really took him into her heart, otherwise he wouldn't have will be so attentive. He and Lu Zhang were not good at cooking. This time, Lu Zhang bought 10 steamed buns from a state-owned restaurant and took them with him in addition to a change of clothes, a kettle, an enamel jar, bowls, and chopsticks, and planned to use his remaining food stamps to get to the train again. Buying food to satisfy his hunger was enough for him to support the army. Now that Feng Qingxiu has made food, Lu Zhang doesn't have to buy food. When it was time to eat, I opened my bag and saw the same food before my eyes. A young man on the bunk next door couldn't help sniffing and looking enviously. "Brother Lu, have you brought so much food?" Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 90. After Lu Zhang saw the tip of the iceberg in the bag, he immediately stopped opening it. The young man couldn't hold back his sharp eyes. Although he only glanced at it, he had already seen the jars of malted milk and many eggs and salted duck eggs. There were quite a lot of them. These are all scarce items. Zheng Bin, the young man who spoke, wiped the corners of his mouth to avoid drooling and making people laugh. Lu Zhang bought a ticket for a sleeper berth, a Datong berth. The berths are not divided into men and women. There are really not a few people in the berth. Because soldiers are given priority, he specially picked an upper berth because there are fewer people in the upper berth than in the lower ones. His military uniform was particularly eye-catching. As soon as he got in the car, someone greeted him. It was Zheng Bin. Zheng Bin is a bit familiar, but who is Lu Zhang? Except that he was a soldier, he didn't hide any other information from Zheng Bin. Instead, he found out his situation. Zheng Bin also went to his destination, but to visit relatives. His father was in the army, and he said he was a medium-sized officer. But Lu Jiang's mind turned around, and when he looked at Zheng Bin's appearance and thought of Zheng Bin's last name, he knew who his father was. Zheng Suifeng, Political Commissar Zheng, his love report and marriage report have to pass the test of Political Commissar Zheng. Therefore, Lu Jiang quietly started to befriend Zheng Bin. Within half a day, Zheng Bin confided in him and called him Brother Lu repeatedly. It was dinner time. Hearing Zheng Bin's words, Lu Jiang couldn't help but smile. He took out 2 eggs and an apple from his bag and threw them to him. "Here, stop staring at me." Zheng Bin took it in his hand with a smile, without wiping it off. He picked up the apple and took a bite. "It's so sweet. It's crispy and sweet, which is rare on the market." No, the apples were bright red, and although they were not in good condition, they must have been picked out by Feng Qingxiu and put in her bag. In addition to dozens of eggs, a dozen apples, and a dozen oranges, there were also 2 canned fruit glass bottles filled with chili sauce. The white cloth didn't know what was packed in it. It looked like folded pancakes. "I don't know what's in the cloth pocket. It looks like peanut beans, broad bean flours, and 2 cans of malted milk. It's such a dazzling array that anyone who looks at it will salivate. It was so rich that it would definitely attract people's attention if it was exposed." Lu Jiang took out a few eggs and a few pancakes, took out a bottle of chili sauce, rewrapped and tied the baggage, and put it in the bunk. The flight attendant brought boiling water, and many passengers stretched out their enamel jugs. The steward had the final say on how much boiling water to pour, but Lu Jiang's enamel jar and kettle were definitely 80% full. Lu Jiang's meal consisted of boiling water, eggs, and hot sauce for pancake rolls. As soon as the chili sauce entered his mouth, Lu Jiang could tell that it was no ordinary chili sauce. It contained fried crushed peanuts, fried sesame seeds, and deep-fried white rice strips. It was spicy and delicious. After Zheng Bin finished eating the apple, he used food stamps to buy a bowl of black noodles and a piece of black bread. Brown bread is made of thick flour. Each passenger is limited to 1. No food stamps are needed. Everyone buys it. Zheng Bin buried the peeled eggs under the noodles in the aluminum lunch box, then handed the lunch box to Lu Jiang and said with a cheeky smile, "Brother Lu, give me a spoon of chili sauce." Lu Jiang glanced at him, took 2 spoonfuls of chili sauce, put it into his lunch box, and whispered, "Don't make any noise." Zheng Bin didn't understand at first, but when he mixed the noodles and took one bite, he knew what was going on. His eyes suddenly lit up. "Brother Lu, who made these for you?"